This episode is sponsored by Property Filter. Find great deals faster.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast, sponsored by us at Property Portfolio Building. This podcast is designed by real people on their journey to achieving financial freedom, and we'll focus on people who've either already attained it, who are joining us on that journey, or maybe a specialist topic that can help you build your technical knowledge to achieving and maintaining that financial freedom. We hope you enjoy it. Hi folks, and welcome back to the Financial Freedom Podcast, sponsored by us at Property Portfolio Building. Today, we are doing one of our 6 rounds with episodes, which is one of the episodes that we do to interview people who are either on their journey to or have already achieved their financial freedom. I'm delighted to be welcomed today by one of our good industry friends, David Dixon. David is, I think, well achieved his financial freedom from his property goal, from his property journey. He was a teacher. He's been in property for 27 years, retired from teaching, I think about 7 or 8 years ago. Assistant head, so he got quite high in the teaching frame as well. But now he does property full time. He is a coach. He's a mentor. He runs Leeds Property Investors Network. If you're in the Yorkshire area, other excellent property networking ones are available, such as Manchester North Property Investors Network. He's done the Mastermind program, which is the same program that me, yourself, and Tim have done. He was on an earlier version of the one that we did, and is now full-time in property. So welcome, David Dixon.
Thanks very much, Phil.
Welcome along. Great to have you.
Good to see you. Made it over the Pennines on a cold frosty morning.
It's a cold winter morning. Very beautiful driving across, yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. So we always start with an icebreaker, and you've kindly given us a couple of things, which I think are really interesting points. Okay. The first one is, I don't know whether this is because you're now full-time in property and you're bored, but it looks like you've decided to go down a different career, and you've done some stand-up comedy training, and you've done your first, we'll call it gig, but it was in front of like a cohort of people that you're training.
And family and friends.
And friends.
I don't know, maybe 100 people there.
Did Simon do this as well?
I believe he did last year, yeah. And I'd been thinking about doing it for quite a long time. And then I heard that Simon had done it. I thought, come on, get your finger out.
Yeah.
Crack on. I love going to see comedy. Always been interested in comedy, live comedy shows and stuff. And I just
we're referring to Simon Zucci, who's the head of the Property Investors.
Yeah, sorry. We all just call him Simon and assume everybody knows. And of course they don't. But yeah, Simon Zucci. So my girlfriend also prodded me in that direction. She said, go on this training course, because if you don't get any better jokes, I'm leaving you.
Or just in general in life. Yeah.
Did you get some good laughs in the gig, or was it cricket?
So. I also got some groans.
I think the groans are good part of it, right? They're part of it.
A lot of people sort of told stories, funny events from their past and stuff, and I thought I want to tell some jokes. So mine was a little bit different. So a joke will divide the audience, won't it? It might be a groan, it might be a laugh, it might be.
So you've done one. Are you going to do 2? Are you going to do another?
Yeah, I think so. There's an event in Leeds, a weekly event in Leeds, run by the graduates of this training program. They organise it, they set it up, and you can do 10-minute slots. So I've got the application form. I haven't filled it in yet, but I think I'm going to do it. Yeah. And it's definitely not a change in career, though. Yeah. It's just something for a laugh.
Interestingly, the other bit that you gave us, which is cool, is you are a backgammon player. Yeah. Which is not a common game anymore.
Not in the UK, anyway.
But you actually ranked.
I've got a UK ranking now. Yeah, 228 or something like that as we speak. Yeah.
So there's 227 more boring people
thanks
than
very
you.
Much.
Have you got a goal to climb the rankings?
Oh, absolutely. And I only started playing in tournaments, which give you the rankings last year. So I quickly went up as I played more tournaments. I'd like to get in the top 100. Yeah. And I'm going to play more tournaments this year. I'm playing Sunday, actually, a couple of days' time. I'm playing in a tournament there, so fingers crossed I do okay there. Yeah.
And for the uneducated, backgammon is a board game.
Yeah.
What is the principle of the game?
You've got 15 checkers. One set moves sort of clockwise. Your opponent moves in the other direction, anti-clockwise, but it's on a roll of a dice. So there's an element of luck in there. So I have beaten players who've been ranked in the top 20 in the country, but equally, because partly the dice went for me.
Right.
But I get beat by people below me. But you've just got to play quite a lot. And then the better players win get the high rankings and win more games.
Yeah, so it ends up being a bit of a percentage game in a way, is it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And do they have much comedy at the backgammon tournaments, or are they entirely separate?
No, it's a lot of silence and concentration.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah.
It's a game of immense subtlety.
Right, okay.
The opening moves can be quite formulaic because you start in the same, like chess, you start with the pieces in the same places. So whatever you roll, you know what you're doing for the first couple of moves.
Yeah.
But then after that, I've never seen this before. This is unusual, and you've got to concentrate and work things out. Yeah, it's fascinating. I like it anyway.
Yeah, and you would probably say that your journey through properties helped you to be able to go and do these other ventures now and stuff like that. And to
I suppose it's given me the time. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it hasn't made me a better backgammon player.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's move on then. Let's ask question one. So we're going to be talking about, we're looking for background, family, schooling, growing up, early education, later, that kind of stuff. And the question is really simple. Tell me your story.
Okay, so from the Northeast originally. I say I'm from Sunderland. Family live in Sunderland now, but we grew up till I was 14 just outside, if people know the Northeast, in Seaham, which was a mining town, 3 pits in the town. And when I was 14, 15, 16, something like that, the pits all closed down. So it was a bit of a desperate place.
It's an 80s Thatcher thing, is it?
Yeah. That was really, really difficult, depressed time. But I don't know, my parents gave me the ambition that I could achieve. So I did reasonably well at school, just the local comp, no choice, just the one big comp in Surf and Seaham, and gave me the aspiration to go to university. Before I did, though, I had a year off and I worked 6 months in the Lake District as a voluntary instructor in an outdoor centre, and then 6 months in France as a canoeing instructor. So I had a great year, which set me up for...
That sounds fun.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But yeah. 3 years at university, doing a sports degree at Carnegie, which was part of Leeds Poly at the time when I first started, which was a
good rugby setup.
Yeah, very good rugby setup. We won the BPSA in the British Polytechnic Sports Association competition, so part of a really good team. Enjoyed that a lot. And then at the end of uni, I had 4 years where I had other jobs in adventure travel. I worked 2 seasons as a ski rep. I managed water sports centres in France and Spain, which was just a good laugh. And whenever I had enough money...
Posh sport for a boy from the Northeast to have.
Yeah, I was punching above my weight.
Yeah, do you ski? I
was lucky because the school had ran a ski trip, which introduced... I was never going with my parents. They've never skied.
Yeah,
it's very alien to them. But they supported me onto the ski trip, which just ignited a passion that I still have. 10 days ago, I was skiing, and I've got the next trip planned for next month as well. So, all good. But when I was doing this seasonal work, and whenever I saved up enough money, because most of the jobs were accommodation and food included, so your wage was just pocket money, off I'd go. So I played a season's rugby in Canada. I lived and travelled in America for 6 months. I spent a while in South Africa. And then the big trip was to Australia and New Zealand. Best part of a year, travelling around Australia. Went to see the 93 Lions tour around New Zealand, which was an ace time. And got to sort of 26 and decided, I need a career here. This fun has to stop somewhere.
Yeah, it's a shame it has to stop at some point.
It did. But I kind of, looking at the bigger picture, it was the right time. And a couple of the companies that I'd worked for had gone bust, a very competitive schools travel market. So I thought I need a career. So I went back to Leeds, went back to Carnegie and qualified to be a teacher and started working as a teacher and started looking to invest in property.
At the same time?
Pretty much. I needed to build up some funds, but the idea of investing in property was set in my second year at university. First year in halls, second year in what we would call an HMO now, but it was a student house, is what we called it. And it looked nothing like, it was more like the young ones than what you guys produce as HMOs now. But I remember, number 1, Stanmore Street in Leeds, just behind the rugby ground, sitting talking to me mates saying, we never see our landlord, so he hardly does any work. And our 6 rents must add up to be a lot more than a mortgage would be. I didn't really know what a mortgage would
It's
be.
simple maths though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I
you
thought
can stay in there and get
there's got to be
idea.
some money here for doing very little. This is what I'm going to do in the future.
Pre-licensing as well.
Yeah, a long way pre-licensing. Yeah. So I didn't do anything about it because I wanted 4 years off having fun, working abroad and stuff like that. But once I started teaching, I thought, right, this is what I'm aiming to do.
So you got in fairly early, fairly young into property, which is good.
30. I was 30, which looking back, I wish I'd started a bit earlier, but hey, I don't want to give those other things up that I did. I've got great memories of.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, then. So I'm really interested in your answer to this next question, if I'm honest, just because of where you are in your journey compared to a lot of people that we interview, and indeed in my own journey. But what is financial freedom to you, and where are you against that journey?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me this, so I've had a little think about it, and I'm not sure I've got a perfect answer.
It means different things to different people, which is why we asked them.
Everyone's got a different definition.
It just gives me choices, I suppose. It gives me choices. It gives me freedom. No financial worries, but to be fair, even when I had financial problems, and I can talk about that a bit later if you're interested, I didn't really worry. You just get on and do it, sort of thing. I do remember my mother saying to me when I was a kid, when my parents were having a difficult time, never worry about money. There's no point, because you'll always be worried, sort of thing. So I've never worried about it. But just to have that comfort of knowing there's enough, really. And I'm not a greedy person. I don't have a ridiculously extravagant lifestyle. I probably have more holidays than the normal person does. But just that feeling of security, that the assets behind you and the choices that you can do, the choices you can make with your time on the back of that's what it really means for me, I suppose.
And why don't you take us on that journey then? Because you now, your income is now solely property.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, different things from property, but I've got no other income than property related stuff. Yeah.
Okay, and when did you stop, say, the job? It was about 7 years ago, I think you mentioned. So you stopped the job.
Yeah.
And could you have stopped earlier? Was that at that time?
Well, I did stop in 2003 to start with, Phil, and that lasted till 2006, where a relationship breakdown, and I lost a lot in that. I'd put everything in, but it was divvied up pretty much 50-50 at that point. And I went back to work, and I could have stopped earlier, I suppose, but for the most part, I was in a job that I particularly enjoyed. My son is autistic with special needs. So when I went back to work in 2006, I went to work in a special school, which was just a fantastic place to work. It's quite apprehensive to begin with. No bones about that. But I was really lucky that I got into a very good special school with a literally world-class PE department. And it was a fabulous place to work. So I stayed around probably longer than I otherwise would have. Yeah.
Right. Very good. Because you loved it.
Oh, it was ace. Yeah.
Which is one part of
the kids were
part of the
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So you weren't working that as a necessity the full way through.
Not the fact. At the start, absolutely it was though, Tim. At the start, I had to. I would have had to sell all the properties. I probably still then would have needed a job. I was in a position where my partner, who I was splitting up from, didn't want any properties. It wasn't, you have this one, I'll have that one.
Yes.
She wanted cash.
Wanted equity of it.
Yeah. So I remortgaged everything. I had to sell one, remortgaged everything, managed to pay her out. So my outgoings had gone up because of the mortgages. I had to pay maintenance for the kids, rightly so. And then we had the credit crunch and all the property prices dropped. So this was a difficult period. And it's, what do? Do I sell? Do I whatever? No, I see the long-term value in holding the assets, but I've got to get a job to stay afloat now. So there were a difficult, probably couple of years.
And then as a side hustle, you started building the property side.
Well, I'd kept the properties, Tim, apart from one. Well, property prices went crashing, so I didn't buy anything for a couple of years. I probably couldn't have anyway. I didn't have the funds. But then as things started to recover, I started buying alongside having the job. Yeah.
So it's fair to say now you're accomplished in property as an individual. But what are the strategies? So this is the next question, really. What are the creative strategies that you've used to get to this position that you're now comfortable in your life? And what have you tried? What hasn't worked for you? What has worked for you?
Well, pretty much everything's worked if you throw time and energy at it, to be sure. And I've had changes of strategy along the way. You've got to remember, I started that long ago. This was, you're pin host, I'm pin host. We've done pin training. I started before Pin did, and Pin's the longest standing training organisation in the country. So there was no support. I couldn't find books on the subject. I just had to kind of go with it.
That's books for everyone else.
Yeah, thanks for translating. In some ways, I'd had that idea that I've mentioned already when I was at uni. The second school I worked in one school outside of Leeds. I hated the journey to it. I got a head of department's job in Leeds, so I did well after 1 year's teaching. And my line manager invested in property. Her and her husband invested in property. So I had a real life example of this can be done, right? I am actually going to do it. So they helped me a little bit, but not that much, really. I just had to get on with it. So I did. And I made a wise decision, though I didn't necessarily realize that at the time. I started with HMOs.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Which high yield.
And when was this, roughly?
What year?
Yeah, roughly.
The first purchase was 97.
97, right, okay. So even 5 years before PIN became a thing.
Yeah. And I left my job in 2003, the year that PIN started.
Yeah.
So in 97, I bought an HMO like Simon Zucchi did. He bought an HMO, lived in it, and moved some of his mates in. Well, I lived in it and moved some of my mates in. And then later, some people I didn't know, and I thought, this really works. I was living sort of mortgage. They were paying the mortgage. I had extra cash. This is great.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can buy another one of these in 5 years' time, not knowing about creative strategies or anything else. Yeah. As it turns out, I bought the next one in 3 years' time. And then it sort of snowballed quite quickly a little bit from there. So the start was HMOs, buy, refurbish, refinance. I kind of worked out, hey, I can buy a grotty property, make it better and keep it. And the rules around mortgages and early redemption charges were much easier to navigate in those days. So there's times I used a mortgage where these days you'd maybe need
less regulation and less compliance and stuff, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I did a flip once on a mortgage, which you just couldn't. These days it wouldn't work.
Did they know?
No. I only owned it for 5 months. I don't think, but I didn't break any rules.
Yeah.
Just an expectation. So started in HMOs, buy, refurbish, refinance, some single lets, and then by 2003, which was the year my second child was born, I had this brainwave of actually let's go full time in property. And looking back, it was a brave decision. I probably didn't have quite enough property, but I thought, if I do the refurbs myself, I buy and I do the work.
Yeah,
I can sell it, and that's 6 months income. So I'll work out the rest as I go along.
Yeah.
So that worked for a while.
So you were selling as well as holding?
Well, the plan was to sell, but I ended up holding.
Right. Okay.
What a planned flip became a buy, refurb, refinance because I could get more rent than I anticipated at the start. Yeah. And I thought, right, I'll just do another one, or I'll do another flip, or we'll manage on this much money. And we did, and it was all fine until our relationship broke down, which I've mentioned.
Yeah, of course.
Already. So later, I didn't buy for a little while. And later, I alongside the job, I had to find strategies that didn't require as much time. And I found that the HMOs were becoming, one in particular was becoming very difficult. I had a tenant who was fine. His spare room, can his mate move in the other room? Yes, he can. And the two of them together were a nightmare. It was really, really challenging and difficult. And other people were leaving because of them. And it was taking up like 95% of my property time.
And you were self-managing?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
And I guess there probably weren't that many specialist HMO lettings agents at that time either.
I don't know if there were any.
Yeah, right.
And I had a busy full-time job, and I had my kids 2 weekends out of 3. They would live with the mum, but came to me for the weekends. So I thought I've got to put a stop to this. Managed to get rid of these 2 tenants and thought I really don't want to move other tenants in. I converted that property into 3 self-contained flats. And when that was done, the maths was I hadn't lost a lot of money, particularly because I could charge higher rents for the flats. Didn't have the void, didn't have the turnover, certainly didn't have the hassle, didn't have people sometimes doing a runner and not paying me rent and stuff like that. And I thought,
were you paying the bills on the house as well at the time?
I had been, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, on the HMO,
So
yeah. That was all gone. So the tenants took on water, gas, electric, share of the council tax, that kind of thing. And I thought, this is the way forward. This makes my life just changed when that conversion was done. So, right, we're going to do something with the other HMOs. So we sold, we converted, and we just changed from this is an HMO to we'll find a big family who wants to rent the whole house. And there's one family still in that HMO for donkey's years now. So that was a significant change in strategy for me there. Now I've got some...
And could you do that because you had surplus revenue, so you weren't worried about maybe a little drop in revenue? Or was it because you'd gone back to work, so you had a second income? Because there must have been some cost implication.
Yeah.
Especially when you move a family into HMO, it's never going to generate the same income.
But by then I'd kind of recovered a little bit. I had a job as well, remember? So the property money was all extra money. It wasn't what I needed to live off anymore. It was welcome to supplement my income, don't get me wrong. I wanted my life back. With this particular pair of tenants, I felt like I was losing my way somewhat, and I was quite prepared to take a lower income, if that's what the result was, to have a life. It was horrible at that point.
And that's like you say, it's very interesting to hear, I have to say, because like the typical thing is that people do HMOs and they go, because it's for cash flow. It's not your passive property.
It's really not.
It's not. It's the least passive property you can do other than serviced accommodation units. Right. So
depending how well it's looked after and managed.
I think. I mean, if you've got a professional manager, but if you're doing it self, man,
if you're doing it yourself, it can be very noisy.
And to be fair, I probably wasn't, and probably still not a particularly great property manager. It's not what I enjoy. It's not where my interest.
But it's also really interesting, isn't it? Because what David's done is actually, we talk about it all the time in terms of the wealth hierarchy. He started with cash flow assets.
Yeah.
He's then managed those assets himself to get out of the job thing. And then you've converted those into longer term assets, which are quieter. And we talk
one
about
of which you've still got as that same family now, which shows how passive that properties end up being.
But even they are not my longest standing tenants.
Right, yeah.
You know, I've got people who've been there for... There must be one guy who must be with me nearly 20 years now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, be like 18, 19 years.
Because we talk to people about this when they say what should my strategy be? Say, well, where are you in the wealth hierarchy? You know, if you were looking to replace your income from your job and you want to do it within a reasonable timeline and your money is limited, then you have to do something in the cash flow asset strategy base. And then when you're working in that full time, then you can worry about other things, you know, and that you've effectively done that probably without somebody telling you that's what you're doing. And you've just gone down that journey.
You've learned, and then
Simon's probably gone and looked at you and gone, I can make an entire training course out of this. You know?
I do reflect on that, Phil, because in my work as a coach and a mentor, you know, sometimes more mentoring, this is what I've done, and you're helping people on that journey. Was I just lucky making those decisions, or had I worked? Because I certainly hadn't been trained at that point. Or had I actually worked this out and thought, strategically, this is a good idea? And I'm still not 100% sure. It's a bit of each, I suppose. And how much of each, I don't really know. Yeah.
So not so much strategic at the time, but it just, you sort of learned and adapted as
reacted to things that were happening to you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fitting your lifestyle anymore.
Yeah.
Which is why my question was because of the extra surplus revenue, you didn't need to have that hassle.
Yeah.
You could make those changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Until then, it's all a hustle.
And to some extent. And once I had done that properly, though, the financial implications were much, much less. It was really fairly even, minus the cost of the conversion, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't know. I must have had the cash somewhere to do. Yeah.
So what strategies are you doing now?
Okay, so my main focus is on having a low hassle, low noise portfolio that gives me not an extravagant lifestyle, but the lifestyle that I want, the security that I want. So I've got reasonable amount of single lets and multi-unit blocks. Those two things are the main thing.
So flats and commercial mixed use and
no commercial, no, but blocks where I have to own the freehold. I have owned flats before that were leasehold, didn't like that, moved on from there. So I own the freehold. I own the individual units within them. They're all fully self-contained, and it's just like having a collection of single lets, really.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that's the majority of my stuff. I do use one of my properties as service accommodation, and then I've got a small rent to SA portfolio as well with a business partner, where he does all the work,
right?
And I provided the money to set them all up. So I don't want the hassle of running that. He runs that.
So you've joint ventured, but your deal was you were going to fund it and they were going to do the day-to-day in essence. Yeah.
So SA, for those that maybe don't know what that is, who've just tuned in to listen because they want to learn from David. So service accommodation. So we're talking most commonly term used at the minute is Airbnb type accommodation. And rent to SA means you don't own the property. You are renting something that you've identified that you can pay a rent for, similar to you would for a single let.
Yes.
And then you have carved that up into nightly rates in effect. And then your nightly rates add up to more than your cost.
Yep.
And you make the margin in the middle. That's technically what rent to SA is.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm in we've offers accepted, but we haven't actually bought it yet. And I'm in a flip deal with two other JV partners as well, which is resi to resi.
Is this one local to us that you talked to me about?
Relatively local to you, yeah. It's not 100 miles
from District, Buxton area.
That's right, not 100 miles from here, and that'll be quite lucrative as well. It's a big old thing. Or the profit in that deal is sorting out all the complicated legal stuff.
Yeah.
And your surveyor that you recommended was ace, absolutely brilliant. So thanks for that, by the way.
Other valuers are available.
Highly recommend this guy. Anyway, and we will take one very big 400 square meter building and make it into 4 units, 2 flats, a 4-bed house, a 2-bed flat, a 2-bed house, a 4-bed house, and 2 3-bed flats, and sell those off and
as units.
Take the profit.
Take the profit. Yeah, that sounds good. It's in a nice part of town as well.
It is. Yeah,
nice area.
It's very good. Edge, and again, there's 3 JV partners in it.
Sell it off, rent it back, use the flats for SA with your business partner.
No, I think we'll sell, and we may do something again in the future, but there's no plan to hold.
No, my point was sell it to somebody and then offer to rent it back off them. And then
all right.
Give it to your SA business partner.
He's in a different part of the country, so that wouldn't work. But one of the JV partners doing this deal has got some SA units. So we had talked about keeping one of them to use as SA. So if they don't sell for the prices quite that we wanted, we might end up doing that. But the idea is we're in as a team, we're out, we end that, and then we look for the next thing.
Yeah, very good.
Stop the podcast now. This episode is sponsored by Property Filter. Property Filter is the #1 property tool for today's property professional. It brings in all the data points and sources from all the property portals and auction sites into one convenient place. Then you have the option to overlay all the clever strategies found in the Property Filter blueprint to find motivated sellers faster. Now, we use it on a daily basis. It saves us over 80% of our time when looking for properties. And if that sounds like something that you want in your lives, please go to register.property-filter.co.uk/PPB, which is the discount code for this podcast. You will get 2 weeks free and a discount on your first month. That's it from me. Back to the podcast.
Lovely stuff. And the one thing I would say is, even though you've probably achieved what you want to achieve, you're still going, because I see you on all the training courses, Dave. We're on the same ones. We're all learning together.
Okay. Yeah.
So even though you're there, you're still going. So why is that?
All right. So a few reasons, really. I'm taking a day off to be here with you today. I can take a week off. I can probably take a month off with a little bit of planning around it, but I couldn't take 2 months off without things starting to unravel. So one reason is you've got to keep the business ticking over. Another reason is sort of personal situation. My partner's a bit younger than me. She's not ready to retire, and put feet up and sail off into the sunset. She wants to do things. And I need to be around. My son lives with me. He did live with his mother before, but he lives with me now. That relationship just got a bit more difficult because of his special needs and autism. But because I worked in the industry for quite a while, he's happy with me. And I need to be there for him, on a regular basis. He has got 2 PAs. He does go to respite. He does go to his mother's for weekends and stuff like that as well. But day to day, his day goes better if I'm kind of around. So what do I do during the day? Do I sit and watch Netflix? Do I only play backgammon, or do I do a bit of work as well? So I do a bit of work as well. On the sort of more philosophical level, or really practical level, I think people are happier if they've got a purpose. So to have some sort of purpose to my day is important. I think being purposeless, whilst I've got a lot of hobbies and can fill my time, having some working purpose is good as well.
And do you have set goals and targets every year as well that helps bring you that purpose, or how
and to be fair, I don't know when this goes out, Tim, but this is early January for us, isn't it, right now while we're recording? Those goals for this year are not fully formed, but as I'm writing them, there are probably more away from property than in property, to be fair.
As in more personal type goals.
Like get my backgammon rating into the top, ranking into the top 100 if I can. I've got 3 ski holidays this season, and I'm working on next season for it to be more than 3, and how I can get my son, Tom, looked after and comfortable away from me for those bits of time so that I can go.
But that's going to be a big challenge, isn't it? So that's going to be to have that in your life and still be able, and one of the things you're able to do is, like you said, is actually sit there and go, I don't need to worry about my additional income goals this year. I can spend my time looking at my other goals to see how do I process this good environment for this person in my life so I can still live mine, but he is looked after. And what a lovely ability to be able to do that.
But the hard bit with it, Phil, is we can only move at his pace.
Of course.
I could click my fingers and set it all up tomorrow, but his world would change too quickly for him to be comfortable with. So it's little subtle changes, regular changes all the way.
Living spaces and
absolutely,
people and, care.
So at the moment then, how many, say, hours a week or, would you say you dedicate to your property businesses compared to the care and the hobbies and things like that?
Okay, I'll have to take a stab at that, but because each week's a little bit different.
Varies a bit,
yeah. But really, what my sort of target is to work in the mornings. I have Friday off once a fortnight.
Yeah.
The weekend that my son goes to his mother's, I have the Friday leading into that, so I have a 3-day weekend once a fortnight. I try to work the mornings. I get him sorted. He goes off to college. I work the mornings. I go to the gym or I go to the climbing wall in the afternoon. Generally, I come back so I can be there at tea time when he gets home from college. 4 days a week. Normally one of his PAs does it on one day. Takes him to the pub. They have the dinner in the pub and he looks forward to it. It enriches his life as well. But I normally sort of, and I might do another little bit of work around that sort of 5:30 time, and then evenings property networking, which maybe I should call work, but I just like it, so I don't call work. I may be hosting a meeting, I may be going to another networking meeting. I might be playing backgammon, I might be doing something else. I might watch a film, I might go to the theatre, I might whatever. So that's kind of a regular day. And it doesn't.
The next question is what does a typical day look like?
Well, there you go. But
I jumped ahead almost.
I'm the interviewer. Fuck up. All right.
It doesn't always work. Sometimes I've got to work all day, and sometimes it's actually easier to work in an evening when Tom's sorted and he's in his room and he's playing on his computer games, and the phone stopped ringing, and I can ignore the emails till tomorrow. And if I've got a piece of work to do, I might do that piece of work in the evening when it's quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet.
So it's just nice to have that flexibility.
Do you have any typical routines that you do? Anything that gets you up and moving, or any of those types of things?
Tom gets me up and moving on the morning because we've got to get him ready for college. He independent in that regard. It's not like I have to dress him or anything. He's independent in that regard. but I've got to give him various prompts in the morning, and I'm trying to reduce those prompts so he does them without me or someone else. So the start of the day is always getting him sorted. He goes off to college, then I start work.
So your first thought in the morning is, I get up, Tom gets up.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we go through the breakfast routine. And
so if you had to have a full-time job as well,
I couldn't.
That would be impossible almost.
Yeah, unless we had like a PA who came in the morning to help
did
sort
that part.
out.
But then that wouldn't enrich your life in the same way.
No, and he doesn't get picked up to go to college till 9:30, and if I was a teacher still, I'd probably need to be in school at 8:30 at the latest, kind of thing. So no, it wouldn't work. And he wouldn't be able to live full time with his mum anymore, so he would have to be somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
So he'd be catered for somewhere.
Which is not. He's not ready for that.
Right.
When I'm here no longer, he will have to be somewhere else, won't he?
How old is he?
He's 21 now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But part of my reason for being and reason for being in property is to leave a legacy so that Tom can be looked after I'm not here anymore.
Yeah. So he's got quite a bit of security.
Probably by his sister.
Yeah.
But maybe a trust fund or whatever else, because I don't want it to be I don't want Tom to be a burden for his sister either.
Yeah. It's a hell of a why. But you started the journey before Tom.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. There's like when something happens which makes you do something, that's a motivation. But when you're already on that journey, it's almost like, did I foresee it, or
I don't think I did, to be honest with you, Phil. But
of course not.
And I started with a very different why, a very poor why, I would say at the beginning.
Yeah.
Was and I didn't understand at the start the power and the potential within property. My start was, I want to have enough money in retirement. I had a teaching job at the start. It was only me. All my money was for me. When I was a teacher, I felt like I had enough money when it was only me. When it was a family, it felt like a teacher's wage was very small. But the idea was I would have enough money in retirement to do all the things, continue doing all the things I wanted to, which probably can give you so much more than that. And I didn't understand that.
Yeah, but you didn't know, did you, at that point in time?
How would I? Yeah.
You're probably one of the only people we could interview that asked this question, then, which is as part of that financial freedom journey and the strategies that you have available to you now. If you were to go back again to the teacher at 25 years old, 26 years old, what would you say to that person? What would you say to do in the
You really have jumped ahead now.
All right, so we have, but we're already talking about,
It wasn't necessarily available at that point, but what I would have said, what would have been best for me at that point was get educated and start networking.
Right.
And I did. I tried to get educated. For your younger listeners, this is going to sound very odd, but I didn't have the internet at home in those days. A mate did, which was one mate, really unusual, and he tried to find me books about property. You can translate again if you want, Phil.
Yeah.
And it took like 3 months to come, and it really wasn't very good. So I did try.
Should have got up Amazon Day.
Yeah, it was really kind of pre-Amazon.
So would you say the real benefits these days, obviously the huge amount of resources, knowledge out there that you can get. And then on the flip side is the challenge that there's more sort of regulation, compliance, and maybe misinformation or something like that. Is that a way you'd put it?
Well, I think people today starting out have got completely the opposite problem to what I had at the start. I couldn't find information.
Yeah.
The information, people these days are awash with information, but it's sorting the good advice from the bad advice.
Yes.
And judging the quality and who's putting it out and why they're putting it out.
Yeah, so if you want to get property training now, obviously there's so much available. Like you said, it's just picking the best people to get trained by or to network with, etc.
And the thing I always take away from these things as well is like the people that shout the loudest are always the people that hate the most. Right?
Sometimes. Yeah.
So when you see these property training things come up, and you say, oh, there's property training over here. Like, there's lots of different property trainers, and they've all got different reputations and so on and so forth. We're in the PIN network, which is one of the longest and most well established, which is why the reason why I chose it. But you see some of them, and then you see you're just paying for this, or you're just paying for that, and you're just paying for the other, and or you see people say, oh, I paid this much and got nothing out of it. And I'm always a case of, well, did you actually
do
did you implement what you got taught or what you learned? Yeah,
because it's not just about getting educated, is it?
There's no magic wand.
Yeah.
I think some people sign up expecting a magic wand. You know this one thing, and then everything will open all the doors for you. And it's not the case. People can, and I am part of helping people. And some folks take the information and really run with it, and off they go and they fly.
Yeah.
And other people don't, and it's really hard to get to the bottom of that. Yeah. Going back to your first question though, the other bit would be networking.
Yeah.
And there weren't property networking events when I started, and connecting with other people and learning informally from your peers can be really valuable as well. So
it's funny because I always think to myself, like, how would I get started? And we get asked for stuff all the time. So can you spare me some time with this? Can you spare me some time with that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's always like, I want free advice. And my honest answer is, if somebody wants to come and talk to David Dixon, you can go to his Leeds networking event. Yeah. Pay £25.
It's not a lot of money, really, right? In the grand scheme of things, is it?
3 hours.
Grab him in the break or after the session.
You can go beforehand, probably when he's setting up and having a brew. You can grab him after when he's just hanging around the bar. There's a break in the middle, and you can go that every month, 10 times a year. So, or same with us. It's like we'll come to the networking event. We have dinner at 5 before ours. We say that to people. Sometimes randomly somebody will turn up, and I'm like, oh, great, well done.
Yeah, and 2 weeks after every Leeds pin, so 2 weeks after one and 2 weeks before the next one, I do a little property social, which is no cost. And people, if they come to Leeds Pin, they'll get a bit of my time. If they come to the property social, we just meet occasionally we go for a meal, but usually we just meet in a pub and have a couple of pints and talk property or what happened in the football or whatever it is. But people can really have a chunk of my time and that's all fine. I do offer people at the pin meetings, particularly the people who are there for the first time, a 20-minute follow-up call if they want. You will be surprised how few people do that.
I think it puts you on a pedestal though as a host though, doesn't it? Sometimes the people are afraid to do that. Certainly I wouldn't have asked my host, even with my personality.
Yeah, I'm a lot friendlier than you.
Come on now, I'm not sure that's okay. It's true. Yeah, it's true. Lovely. So it's not been a straight line. We can say that.
Absolutely not.
Right. So at this question, I'm really keen on, and it's to do with good and bad. So successes and failures. What are you most proud of, and what's been the biggest challenge?
Well, let me do it the other way around. The biggest challenge is easy. That was that relationship breakup. That was really challenging. My partner moved out of Leeds, took the kids away from Leeds. It was really hard not living with my kids. And then the financial implications, which I've talked about a little bit before, personally, and then the world economy, where it made it even more challenging. So kind of keeping going through that was not days or weeks, months and years.
Challenge at the time.
Yeah.
Benefit now?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the right thing?
Not selling. Look, you could argue if you'd sold at the top of the market and rebought the same properties at the bottom of the market, it would have been better. But who knows where the top of the market is?
You don't.
Who knows where the bottom of the market
is?
If I hold and see it through, which I have, there's a long-term benefit there. Absolutely. So definitely the right thing.
So that is a decimation, isn't it? Really, ultimately, that's not just one little turning point. That's everything at the same time, right?
It could have been cataclysmic.
Yeah. Well, lots of people would have buried their head and just gone into deep depressions and not done anything about it.
Yeah, and wait for the receivers
and blame themselves.
Waiting for the receivers to turn up and the banks to repossess properties that had to work really quite hard to ensure.
So what's potentially the learning for you of what happened there? Because it's not like we're not talking about a business failing because of X amount of decision. This is a personal relationship that's resulted in a lot
so
of these challenges.
I've never tied myself to another person financially,
right?
In that way before. I do have business partners. I do have a life partner who is also a business partner, but she put as much in as I did. If it ever fails, and I don't think it will, but if it ever did, we've got a structure whereby it's 50-50. The business is on 50-50 and we'll split it 50-50, but she's put as much in as I have.
So the learning is whether it's a relationship, partnership or a business relationship, it's understanding
Don't get married. Is what I'm getting. What I'm getting from it.
Well, I didn't get married, Phil, but I did tie myself financially to this to this person. So nobody would enter that relationship and have children or get married expecting it to fail. Nobody goes in with that expectation. However, you can put structures in place of, well, just in case.
Yeah. You see it as a failure.
That relationship did. To be fair, Phil, before we had kids, we got on like a house on fire and everything was fine. And after we had kids, we realized that we just were not compatible people. We were really not in she was horrible or anything. We were just different. We wanted different things.
Yeah.
I was a lot more ambitious. In terms of get up and go and the things I wanted to do, I wanted to go skiing, I wanted to go climbing, I wanted to do this. She was just very happy sitting at home watching the telly, which is fine, but it's not what I wanted to do. So we decided to go our separate ways. Was it a failure? Yes and no. It's part of my life journey. And to be fair, it's that long ago now that it's just behind me. Yeah. And some of my friends, one in particular, said, "Are you not bitter? All that money you had to give her and she never prayed." And it's like, look, it gave my kids a home when they lived with her. And it's so like I could be stressed and worried about that for the rest of my life. And there's no point in
there's no benefit to that, is there?
There's no benefit to that at all. So we move onwards and forwards. Yeah. What am I most proud of? Did you say?
Yeah.
I think being a good dad. I think being a good dad's the most important thing. Yeah. The properties can come and go, but I've raised, particularly Tom, who's got his additional needs. You know, my daughter, a bit of a high flyer, first in her degree, all that kind of thing. But Tom needed additional help and support, and I've been there for him. So
how would you describe being that good dad? Is it just being there with the time to provide that support, or being supportive, or how would you define that?
A lot of it, you spell love TIME, don't you? You spell love by a given time, but it's not. It's a little bit more than that in Tom's case, because you've got to really try to understand him.
You spell love TIME. I've not heard that before.
Have you not?
Never heard that, but I like it.
I like that. I never made this up. I'm just nicking other people. Your kids will judge the love you have for them by the time that you spend with them. But you need to be in Tom's head and understand autistic people and how they function and how they work for that time to be productive with him. And sometimes Tom likes being by himself a lot of the time, and he likes routines. So setting up nice routines for him that give him comfort is important. So yeah,
that sounds like you've nailed it. And I guess in terms of having that time, the fact that you made the decisions early, and even though it caused you pain in 2006, you weren't back to square one. It was a period of time. You were already further ahead than most people would be starting out.
Yeah.
And a few years later, you were able to make all the same decisions.
Yeah.
Just by following the same thing. So I guess in terms of where you are now, that time and that love can be shown because of the support that you have from your.
Well, Tom's got a home. Tom's got a home, as opposed to if I had to go to work, he would live in some sort of institution, I guess. So that's an enormous benefit. Well, for me as well. I like him being there. I'd miss him if he wasn't there.
And that's another good point, isn't it? Because you think you're doing it for them, when in reality, this is equally as beneficial.
Yeah, it's absolutely beneficial.
You wouldn't want him living in an institution or a home.
No, not now, because I don't think he'd manage. Maybe at some point in the future, in the right place, in the right place, we can still work. Even at 21, he's developing his independence. Yeah. And as I said before, we've got to go at his pace.
Excellent. Okay. So probably you've just given one. You spell love TIME, but what would you say is the best piece of advice you have been given, or that you've learned in your journey that you could impart to somebody?
That's really hard. If we're thinking about property stuff, you just look. There are going to be problems, and just work them out and keep going. There's loads of people around you who will support, who will help, and there's loads of knowledge out there for free or for nearly free. The cost of a book is really low. So
does that come a bit to mindset, problem solving mindset is what you're saying?
Yeah. You absolutely need the mindset that you can achieve. You've got to believe you can achieve. And I started that young that I believed I could do anything, and I've since learned I can't. But if you think you can do anything, you just got to get on with it. You just do it. Be brave. Make those decisions. What's the worst that can happen? As long as the worst that can happen isn't going to bring down your business, isn't going to end in divorce, isn't going to hurt anybody or whatever, then take those positive steps forward.
And even if that does happen, you can
just keep going.
You can just move forwards again, right?
Yeah,
that's the whole point about life.
You just keep going. So that's not a soundbite bit of advice, but that's the reality for property people. And running kind of alongside that, I remember a head teacher who I worked with, who was really good guy. I remember him saying to me, work out what you like doing in life and then get on with it. And I thought, right, okay, that's really quite wise. So that's why I squeeze in climbing holidays, skiing holidays, why I take an afternoon off to go to the gym or to go to the climbing wall and things like that. I've worked out what I like doing and I'm getting on doing it. And the properties help me do that as well. So
excellent. Good stuff. So Tim's already pointed this out, which is the previous guest question would be, what if you if you give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be? But we've answered that question. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump to the next bit, which is your question. So we give the guest the opportunity to ask us some questions. Right. And I believe you've prepared a couple of questions for us.
So you guys, from the outside, look like you work really hard. You've got different businesses. I know some of the people that I coach are clients of yours and they're really happy with what you've done. But for you, Phil, what's your exit from that? Because I guess you don't want to be working that hard. Or maybe you're not working that hard, but it appears compared from the outside, it appears that you're working hard. What's your exit strategy plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's do we work hard? But the thing is, it's like, do I work hard? But I love what I do. So no, I don't work hard because it gives me purpose. And the one thing I would say is, like, I say this a lot, and it's sort of my mantra that I'm going to be hopefully imparting to people, which is struggle with purpose is living, right? Struggle without purpose is dying. So struggle is the common thing that humans have. You know, we've always struggled. 10,000 years of evolution, we've always had some kind of struggle, whether it's finding food and gathering food all the way through to today's world of having a purpose. But struggle with purpose is living. So I love what I do. So in terms of how would I exit from that, that's my pain point, is what happens when I can't do what I do now tomorrow. You know, that's my pain point, if you like. So my exit strategy is to have more fulfillment from other things outside of what I do today that I can really hang my hat on. And we're already doing things, you know, we already support a couple of, we won't mention it in great detail, in charity stuff, you know, educational parts that we're looking to do and so on and so forth in the future. But then retirement will never be on the cards. My exit strategy from property portfolio, my plan is almost the same as yours, Dave, right? Which is be left with some assets that I can pass down to my family, right? That's it. In a trust or whatever, that's it. We have joint ventures, we have all these other things in play. Yeah, they will carry on and so on and so forth, and they will see a natural life cycle, and we have exits and shareholder agreements to deal with all that kind of stuff. But that is my ultimate goal, which is just have a bunch of assets that I can add my family to into a trust, and then that's my sort of like exit strategy, if you like. But in terms of my personal one, what does that look like? I'm just going to find things that I love to do and do those things until the point where I can no longer do those.
Well, that's a bit of advice from the head teacher I used to work for, isn't it? Yeah. Find the things you like doing and get on with them. So if you're looking for purpose outside of property, do you want me to teach you how to play backgammon?
Yeah, listen, you teach me how to play backgammon. I'll play it.
Cool. Yeah.
And I'll play it and I will beat you with an ear.
Well...
the way backgammon works,
anybody could beat it.
You beat me within a week, and if you hadn't, there's something wrong. But whether you would beat me regularly,
it's the consistent position.
So it should be a best out of 10 approach or something.
Well, it is. The tournament I'm playing in at the weekend is the first to 9 wins a match.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So,
but no, I love puzzles and I love board games. I'm a big fan of chess. My dad used to study the chess masters and the moves and teach me the moves and that kind of stuff. I loved all those things. So. You know, I am actually a big fan of those things.
Well, if you're a decent chess player, you take the backgammon fairly well.
Yeah. I'm a really good board game player in general.
Right.
So, and I don't mean that like.
Well, bring your wallet.
My family hate playing at board games because I'm always thinking about not just about what's happening in front of me, but how I can manipulate subtle movements to convince people of things that aren't happening.
So you're possibly the only person I could picture maybe beating me in Monopoly. You're a Monopoly player.
Me?
Yeah.
I play Monopoly. Yeah.
I can't remember losing because obviously you're a property person as well, but I'm just buy everything,
Yeah.
Don't be scared with your money, and you will win. But I think playing other property people like yourself might be a challenge.
We all know. I mean,
Monopoly's not the ideal game, is it? I mean, actually having strategy.
No.
But things like Cluedo they have strategies because you can give false information and part information. And so those kind of games actually.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to play it, to be honest with you, Phil, because my family don't necessarily like playing board games with me because I always play to win and play my best. And sometimes they just want to play for fun. To me, the fun is playing your best and trying to win.
I struggle to play for fun.
Yeah.
I do play to win. And that's the even during COVID, I went back to playing computer games because computer games were a big part of my life. And I started playing back Call of Duty, which is a first-person shooting game. And then even during then, I wanted to do something else. So I started a stream, a gaming stream for charity purposes, mental health charities, men's health charities, this type of stuff. So I started streaming it. People gave donations as we were playing the games and so on and so forth. And they all went to charities and so on and so forth. I was good at it, but I always played we had tournaments. And even if it was my tournament that I put on, I wanted to win the tournament. It's my tournament. I'm trying to get people to play me and I'm trying to beat them at the same time. It's not ideally. It's not. You can't fix the tournaments. It's impossible. But I mean, it is a competitive edge.
Okay. Well, we'll have a game sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll learn how to play it first.
Yeah. And okay, so Tim, for you, for the benefit of the listeners, it's the 10th of January today. There's snow outside. It's cold as hell. I had to scrape the car off the drive over this morning and stuff. You're from Australia. What the hell are you doing here? Why are you not in Australia enjoying the sunshine?
Well, you say that, but I'm actually flying out to Australia this time next week. So.
Right, okay.
So it is a good question, actually, because, I mean, part of the reasons that I'm in property and what I'm doing is to give a bit more of that flexibility that I can spend a bit more time between the countries. So, last year, as an example, I was in Australia for 2 months over Christmas and their summer. So I've got my wife's from Manchester. I came over and moved here mainly just to get out of my comfort zone, do a bit of travel. I was only going to be minimum 12 months. 10 years later, I'm still here and I got a family. But also, like anything, there are upsides and downsides of anything and anywhere you live. So obviously, Australia's definitely got better weather. Mm-hmm. Downside here is a lot of rain. But then the positive over here, it's like so close to Europe. There's so many cultures nearby. There's so much history. Even where we are in Manchester, we're so close to lots of other history and other towns in the UK that you can see and do. Whereas in Australia, your city's quite isolated. There's not that deep culture and history. Well, in certain respects anyway. But there's upsides and downsides to everything because, people move over from Australia to here for that. People move from here to Oz for the weather and lifestyle. So like anything, there's upsides and downsides. But if you can build something that you have a bit of choice and flexibility, then you can decide where you go at times and things like that. So
I completely agree with you about Europe. Europe's fantastic. The depth and richness in culture in Europe is fantastic.
Oh, the amount of cities and different languages and the food and everything. It's amazing.
My favourite city is still Edinburgh, though.
Oh, I love Edinburgh.
It's still my favourite city. And if you've not been and you live in the UK and you can drive there, go to Edinburgh. It's such a wonderful city. Yeah. And if you go during the events that they have as well. Oh, wow.
I tend to go for the rugby. Yeah. I go to watch Scotland play in the autumn internationals. I went to see them play Fiji just at the end of last year. Great weekends. Loved it.
Yeah. Maybe that's something we should do. Play backgammon on the way up to watch Scotland in Murrayfield.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
That would be good. Yeah, I'd enjoy that.
That'd be good. All right. Inspirational stuff as always, David. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come talk to us. That's it for us. If people want to get in touch with you, they should attend the Leeds Pin.
Please come along. It'd be great to see you.
And when is it generally?
It's always the 4th Wednesday of the month, except August and December. We have August off for holidays and Christmas, obviously, December, but the 4th Wednesday.
The 4th Wednesday
of each month.
4th Wednesday of every month. Lovely. Yeah. And once again, thank you for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast. I hope you enjoyed something, took something away from that. And thank you again to our guest, David Dixon. And we'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thank you once again for joining us on the Financial Freedom Podcast, sponsored by us at Property Portfolio Building. If you want to get in touch with us about today's podcast or any of the learning topics that we've gone through today, you can email us at podcast@invest-prop.co.uk or get in touch with us with whichever your social media platform of choice is. If you think you would add value to us as a guest on this podcast, you can please get in touch and let us know what you would be able to talk to us about. Other than that, we wish you well on your financial freedom journeys. And once again, thank you for joining us and we'll see you on the next one.